Here's 5 things you should know before you buy an electric vehicle. Hi, I'm Mike from Greenway Electric, and I've been driving electric vehicles since 2013, and I wanted to go over a few different things you should consider before buying an electric vehicle, especially if it's your first one. The first thing you're going to consider is how you're going to be using the car or vehicle. You'll need to decide, am I using this just for commuting within my local area to go to work? Or am I going to be using it for road trips and long distance? Also, consider the number of vehicles you have in your household. Do you have just one vehicle or do you have multiple vehicles? And then consider the use case for each of those vehicles. Do you have one that you take on road trips or family vacations, and one is more primarily a commuter vehicle going back and forth to work? Will you need to use the vehicle to tow anything? If you have 2 vehicles in your household and one of them can be used just purely for commuting locally, then that could save you a lot of money on the initial cost of the electric vehicle you're planning to purchase. The longer range the vehicle is, the more expensive it's going to be, and it's going to limit the number of choices you have. If you are using the vehicle only for short commutes in the local area, you may be able to get away with buying an electric vehicle that's a few years old in the used market, and vehicles that are up to 10 years old still have usable capacity and range that will get you around your local city or town. If this is your first electric vehicle purchase, you may be a bit hesitant to spend tens of thousands of dollars on it. And if it is your second vehicle that's only being used for short distances, this is a great opportunity for you to buy a used vehicle that has depreciated and is quite economical in terms of purchase. By doing that, you can give it a try, see how you like it, see how you find it, and you'll become a lot more comfortable with the use of electric vehicles. And so if you decide in the future that electric vehicles are right for you, you'll have that experience to go forward with and consider for your future vehicle purchases. I found a lot of folks in our local electric vehicle club will start out with a less expensive vehicle with a shorter range, and after they've used it for a year or two, they've become comfortable and they understand the use of the electric vehicles, and then they've gone out and ended up either purchasing a second one or they've traded it in for a longer range vehicle that's quite a bit more expensive, but yet that you can take on road trips and other long distance travel. If you have one vehicle in your household and this vehicle will be used for all purposes, then you'll need to decide whether or not a short range vehicle would be right for you. And I keep talking about short range vehicles just simply because they are less expensive and it's a less, overall it's going to cost you less in terms of purchasing the vehicle. If you rarely go out of town or take long distance trips, let's say you don't do it for several months of the year, it may make sense to simply purchase a short range vehicle, and then for those occasional long road trips, either you may choose to rent a car or you may choose to perhaps swap vehicles with a interested family member or friend who is curious about your electric vehicle. You might swap your EV with them for their gas car for the weekend if you're going out of town briefly. Just another option to consider. You might say, well, why would I bother doing that? Why would I want to buy a car that I have to rent a car to get out of town? And the answer is because the electric vehicles are very much cheaper to basically fuel up. So if you consider the cost of per mile or per kilometer of fueling an electric vehicle compared to a gas vehicle, and when I say fuel for electric vehicle, I mean recharging it, the cost of the electricity is typically much cheaper than it is to do the same trip in a gasoline vehicle. Just for rough numbers, if we take the average cost of electricity in the United States at 15 cents per kilowatt hour, and then the average efficiency of electric vehicles, it's going to cost you around 5 cents per mile to travel on an electric vehicle, or about 3 cents per kilometer. That's using average numbers. Then you can compare that to the cost of refueling your gasoline vehicle and the average cost per mile or per kilometer and see the difference. So in the end, it may be cheaper overall to rent a vehicle occasionally, once every few months, compared to fueling a gas vehicle every day. The second item you should consider before purchasing an electric vehicle is where you're going to charge it. If you live in a location where you have access to plugs where you park your car, for example, if you live in a house and you can plug your car into your garage or your house, then that's usually the ideal place to recharge your electric car. And that's for 2 reasons. 1, because the electricity is typically cheapest at home, and 2, it is also the most convenient because that's the place you come back to every day anyway, So if you had to go and recharge your car at a refilling station, that's an extra stop in your daily routine that you wouldn't need to take if you're simply plugging it in at home. It does get a bit more complicated if you live in an apartment or a condo or someplace where you're unable to recharge your vehicle at your home. So prior to purchase, you would need to look at whether or not recharging your car at your apartment or condo is even a possibility. You may have to go to the condo board or your apartment manager and see if there's any availability of plugs or any place that you can plug in your vehicle. And the answer may simply be no. And in that case, that leaves you with public charging stations, which are quite a bit more expensive and also inconvenient. And what I mean by inconvenient is they can be quite rapid. There are level 3 rapid chargers which can recharge your car from 20 to 80% in about 30 minutes. So if you find one of those at your grocery store that you go to visit every few days, maybe that's not such a big deal. But ultimately, it's still going to be a special trip to a refueling station that you would not need to take if you could recharge your car at home. And I'll just reiterate that recharging your car at home is really one of the most convenient ways to do it because you're going to be at home anyway. The third important consideration before buying an electric vehicle is just looking at rebates that are in your local area. Your country may have federal rebates. For example, in the United States, there's a $7,500 federal income tax rebate. In Canada, there's a $5,000 rebate. And then your state or province may also have rebates as well. So it would be important to take a look at those and their availability in your area. As you are looking at those rebates, you should also consider whether or not they apply just to brand new electric vehicles or if they are also applicable to used electric vehicles as well. The other consideration for those rebates is whether they will apply to a purchase of an electric vehicle or a lease or both. And those considerations will be different and make the numbers turn out differently for you, which leads me to the next item, which is buy or lease. Now, this is a question that you probably have faced before when purchasing a vehicle, deciding if you're going to purchase outright or buy it or lease the vehicle. So when you're considering that, it'll be important to understand the availability of those rebates and how they factor into your payment calculation. Ultimately, you'll be faced with a decision on whether or not to buy or lease. Of course, at the end of the lease, you won't have a vehicle available to you. And I know some manufacturers will allow you to buy out the value of the vehicle at the end of the lease, and some leases will not allow you to do that. So it's going to depend on all the lease terms that you have available in your vehicle. Of course, if you purchase it, then at the end of your payment cycle, you will then own the vehicle. One other major consideration you could take a look at when considering buying an electric vehicle is whether you want to buy a pure electric vehicle that is battery powered only, or if you would like to purchase a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. So what's the difference there? A pure electric vehicle is just what it sounds like. It has a battery, has no gasoline or diesel engine, and it's purely powered by battery. The PHEV, or plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, is basically a hybrid vehicle, so it has a electric motor as well as a gasoline or diesel motor as well. So the advantage of the PHEV is that you can refuel the vehicle at any gas station in your area, and it is the exact same process that you've done with your gasoline vehicle. And if you're going on a long road trip, as you know, there's thousands and thousands of refueling stations basically everywhere. And so finding a refueling station is very easy in a gasoline or electric vehicle. In a pure electric vehicle, to recharge your car, there are recharging stations along highways, but they are not as numerous yet as they are for gas stations. So if you live in a rural area or do a lot of different road trips, it may be more convenient to buy a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. And in that case, if you're doing a lot of road trips or doing a lot of rural driving, you'll be able to refuel as at any location like you normally have. And if your normal daily driving is not too far, then you'll be able to recharge at home on the electric vehicle and drive 30, 60, 90 miles on electric before it switches to gas. And so you'll have the benefit of the electric vehicle as well as the benefit of a gasoline vehicle with the numerous gas fueling stations. The only downside to those vehicles is you are essentially having two systems in your car. So you will still have the maintenance of the gasoline engine. So you'll still need to do oil changes and spark plugs and timing belts and transmission fluid flushes and radiator flushes and all those different maintenance items over the course of the life of the vehicle. If you have an electric vehicle, pure electric vehicle, a lot of those maintenance items go away. It's not completely maintenance free, but it is definitely reduced in terms of overall maintenance requirements. So these are some considerations for you before you purchase an electric vehicle. Let me know if there's anything else you think that's really important we should look at, and you can leave those in the comments for me. If you found this video interesting or informative, I'd appreciate it if you can give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing for future videos. Thanks so much and have a great day.